The worst sound I have ever heard is not a scream. It's the silence of a courtroom after the bailiff says, "All rise." It's the sound of a life being measured and found wanting before a single word is spoken. And I helped create that silence. Her name was Elaine. She lived 3 houses down from me for 15 years. In a suburb where everyone's story is written in their lawn and the color of their front door, Elaine's story was quiet. She was a widow. Her husband Thomas had died of a heart attack 5 years prior, right there on their perfectly mowed back lawn. After that, she just seemed to fold in on herself. She'd wave from her porch, but her smile never reached her eyes. She kept her blinds closed. We decided it was grief, of course, a profound, lasting grief. We'd bring her casseroles she never ate, offer words that seemed to slide right off her. We felt sorry for her, in our way. Then her son, Robert, moved back home from the city, a lawyer. He was handsome, polished, concerned. He'd stop by my fence, his voice low with worry. "I'm just so troubled about Mom, Margaret. Since Dad died, it's more than grief. There are gaps, inconsistencies." He mentioned things, missing jewelry, a confused story about a checkbook, a day she couldn't remember driving to the grocery store. He spoke with the calm, rational precision of his profession. He wasn't accusing. He was asterisk painting a picture, a picture of a mind unraveling, of a woman becoming a danger to herself. He asked me one afternoon, his eyes so earnest, "Margaret, you've known her. Has she seemed different to you, not just sad, but off?" And I searched my memory. I thought of her closed blinds, her distant smile, the way she sometimes didn't answer her door. I mistook solitude for confusion. I mistook peace for disintegration. "She has been very quiet," I said. It felt like such a small thing. That small thing became a line in an affidavit. My words, polished by Robert's legal language, became, "The neighbor has observed significant social withdrawal and cognitive decline." I signed it. I thought I was helping. I thought I was saving Elaine from some vague, frightening future only her son could see. The petition for guardianship was filed. That's when the silence began. The courtroom was all polished wood and hushed voices. Elaine sat at a table wearing a simple blue dress. She looked small. She looked clear-eyed. Robert sat beside her, a hand protectively on her arm. He looked the picture of a devoted son. Her lawyer, a tired-looking man with coffee stains on his tie, stood up. He asked me to confirm my statement. I did. He asked, "And based on these observations, you believed Mrs. Elaine Peterson was incapable of managing her own affairs?" I looked at Elaine. She was looking at her hands. "I believed she needed help," I said. Then it was Elaine's turn. She stood. She didn't look at her son, she looked at the judge. Her voice didn't waver. It was low, but it filled that terrible silence. "Your Honor," she said, "my son Robert borrowed $60,000 from me 2 years ago for a business venture that failed. He asked for more. I refused. That's when the concerns about my mind began." You could feel the air leave the room. Robert's face went perfectly still. She continued. "The missing jewelry was in a safety deposit box. I showed him the receipt, but he said I was confused, that it was for something else. The checkbook was balanced. I have the registers. The grocery store, I have the receipts in my car from that day. I didn't answer the door because I was tired, tired of being watched, tired of being told my own memories were wrong." She turned then and looked right at me, not with anger, with a sadness so deep it felt like a physical weight in my chest. "Margaret," she said just to me, though the whole room heard, "you brought me a tuna casserole in a blue ceramic dish on November 12th. You said you were sorry about Thomas. I thanked you. I told you he always hated tuna. You smiled and said, 'So did mine.' We stood on my porch for 10 minutes talking about the stubbornness of husbands. Do you remember that?" I did, vividly, the chill in the air, the exact blue of the dish, her lucid, gentle smile. "I remember," I whispered. "Then why," she asked, her voice breaking for the first time, "did you only remember the silence?" The case was dismissed. The judge used words like pretext and bad faith. Robert left the courtroom without looking at anyone, but that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the real reckoning. The legal machinery stopped, but the social machinery kept grinding. The story in the neighborhood was, son tries to take advantage of mother. It became, such a shame, that family dispute. Poor Robert trying to do the right thing. And Elaine, she must have been so confused to say those things in court. My testimony, my signature, had given his lie a witness. It had made his fiction respectable. I saw Elaine a week later getting her mail. The space between us felt like a canyon. I walked over. I had no words that could possibly be enough. I just stood there. She looked at me, and the sadness was still there, but it was mixed with something else. A terrible exhaustion. He was my son, she said finally. I loved him, and he looked at me and saw a problem to be solved, a wallet to be opened, and then he saw an obstacle to be removed. She took a deep, shaky breath. But you, Margaret, you were my neighbor. You looked at me and saw what? A character in a story your own fear wrote. I had no answer, because she was right. I hadn't seen asterisk or asterisk. I'd seen the idea of the lonely widow. I'd seen the potential for tragedy. I'd listened to the compelling, logical narrative her son spun, and I'd let my own lazy observations fill in the blanks. I judged the book by its closed cover. My judgment wasn't based on malice. It was based on nothing, a feeling, an assumption, a story that was easier to believe than the complicated, painful truth of a son's betrayal. And that kind of judgment, it doesn't need a gavel to destroy a life. It just needs a willing witness, a silent consensus. Elaine sold her house last month. She moved to a small town in Maine, near the ocean. She said she wanted to hear a noise that had no echo of any of this. I still live here, in my house, 3 doors down from her empty one. Sometimes I stand at my kitchen window and look at her porch, and I don't see a lonely widow anymore. I see a woman who survived a storm her son created, but that I helped give power to with every assumption, every unverified worry, every quiet nod of agreement. The law couldn't touch me. There was no crime in being mistaken. But every morning, when I get my own mail, I feel the weight of that question she asked in the courtroom, the one that hangs in the air between me and every person I meet now. Why did you only remember the silence? And the truth I have to live with is this. I listened to the story everyone was telling about her instead of listening to her. So I have to ask you, whose story are you listening to right now?